welcome back to topic 1, lesson 2. In topic 1, lesson 1, we look at the meaning of data, we look at the types of data and the importance of data. And I know you would have tried your hands to find out the type of data you have around you. Did you do that? Oh yes, I could hear yes, that is good if you did that. That is a good one. But the focus we have in topic 1, lesson 2, which is the lesson we are looking at right now, our focus is going to be on the problems and limitations of the use of statistics in educational planning. You know, we have looked at the importance of the use of statistics in educational planning. Yes, as good as we have heard it, discuss it and see it, you actually have the other ugly part of it. So we are going to see some of those limitations that we have when you are using statistics in educational planning. At the same time, in this part of the lesson, we are going to look at the method of generating educational data. So without wasting of time, let's get along. Let's look at the problems and limitations of the use of statistics in educational planning. First, when statistics is not used in the appropriate form, it can lead to a wrong decision. For example, if you use the wrong statistical tools, or maybe at the point of analysis, you did not do it properly, it can lead to a wrong decision taking because you're going to base your decision on the findings of what you have collected in the field. Again, if all the statistics, since statistics deal with aggregate of facts and attaches no importance to individual item, it therefore makes it very difficult for one to isolate individual problem and to solve individual problem. So in this regard, you see that because the statistical result is based on the aggregate, on the average of all the data that is being collected, you are not able to take care of the individual differences. And this also may even be the individual countryside or individual state-wise a particular thing that you need to attend to. So in doing this, if you have to be very careful when you are choosing your statistics, choosing your data. So if you have to really meet with what you really want to meet in that data collection. Again, all educational problems may not be quantifiable in the terms of figure because education deals with people from various backgrounds and interests. How do we mean by this? You discover that because we are not dealing with the same set of human beings, therefore, you discover that when you use data and you generalize, it is not isolating the particular problem that is associated in that range. For example, you have the federal government policy that every child must start primary 1 at the age of 6. But you discover this was not really going in that order. Even with some schools and some parents, they go against this. You find children of 4 years old, they are starting primary 1. So in this regard, when you are now going to base your decision, you're going to base your budget, you're going to base your planning based on what the policy says, you discover that in the real sense of it, some other things may be lacking. Then again, the presence of bias on the part of the planner or the researcher. Sometimes, because we are human, when we are collecting data, we may be biased, or when you're analyzing data, you may be biased. So you discover that the feeling of the researcher or the feeling of the planner could have a way it will interfere with the results that you are going to present. And when this happens, it affects the decision altogether. The omission of important facts or variable in the process of statistical procedure may render a whole investigation useless, because when you go into collection of data and you are choosing your statistical tool, there are variables you need to consider. So if you do not consider the right variable, it could lead to wrong results. And sometimes too, it's not because the data you collected is wrong, but because the variable you needed to consider were not considered. Then we equally have wrong and insufficient data. This is very common, especially in Nigeria, especially even in schools. I remember there was a time I went around to collect data and I wanted to calculate the the cost of wastage. And in calculating that cost of wastage, I needed to have the student flow record to know how they progressed move from one level to the other. And I went to this primary school. You look at the student enrollment I was given is not the actual. And right there, I was told, well, in this school, we have two sets of enrollment. We have the one we give to government when they come, because they believe with that they will be able to get enough money to fund the school. And you have the actual, which is somewhere. So in this regard, you discover that if you now releases an enrollment that is not the right figure representing the actual enrollment in that school or in a state, on the long run, the planners may not be able to plan right, and will keep having the low quality. And when you are planning for infrastructure, you won't be able to plan for the right infrastructure because you are not having the right data. Then insufficient data. Sometimes, yes, the data is right, but it's not enough. It is not really representing all that you need to represent. So when you have this and you work with this set of data, you work with this set of information, here you may have the right statistics and you have analyzed it, but because the data you are working with, it is not adequate, it will now give a wrong impression, which might lead to wrong conclusion and wrong decision making. So the use of statistical tool is very, very vital. Some persons that are even doing this, and some of them are not even so conversant to know the right tool to use. Now, having said this, we have to look at the method of generating educational data. How do we generate educational data? There are two main types or two ways in which we generate educational data. Then one is macro. This macro could come from the federal government level or from the state government level. They are the one that will make policies to guide the generation of data at the various school levels, because the policy is what we guide to say, okay, this is what you're going to do at a particular time or at the other time. For example, there is a policy in schools that you have what we call statutory records that must be kept, and each time the monitors, they go around to check what is going on in schools, they look out for those statutory records because it's a policy. Then they give direction on the type of record that should be kept in the school. They create strategies and procedures for the collation and the submission of data. This is mostly come from Federal Ministry of Education that will put a procedure in place on how data will be collated and at the same time submitted. Because when the collection of data is wrong too, it will affect the quality of data that you are collecting. And when the quality of data is distorted, it will affect those that are going to use this data to work. Then evaluate the process of generation and submission of data to the central body. Then finally, they are the ones that come on to provide the platform for data analysis. Right, remember that sometime last year, 2019, the Federal Ministry of Education held a symposium whereby it was discussed on how they are going to improve on this data collection, because a wrong data collected is the beginning of having low quality of education. Now, the last part is the micro. At the micro level, when you want to collect data, what normally happens is that this happens within the school environment, at individual school environment. And what you are collecting at the individual school environment is a directive from the federal or state, like what I stated, because those directives, they have to give it. That will enable the various individual schools to collect their records, and it will be taken back to the federal level or the state level that will do the collation to be able to make an informed decision based on what is collected. Then at times too, at the micro level, you discover that some researchers will be interested in solving a particular problem and they go on to collect data. And sometimes it might be an organization that will come together, they want to carry out a research and collect data. Now, before we leave this section, any question? I want to take some question if there is any. Okay, if there is no question, as a recap of what we have just learned, we have looked at the problems or limitation in the use of statistics in educational planning. And again, we have equally looked at the method of generating educational data. There are two methods we've just treated. We'll look at the macro and the micro level. Remember, at the macro level, it is being guided by the federal government or the state government, and they are the one that provide the guidance on what should be done at the school level, which is the micro. And at the micro level also, you have individual researchers or organizations coming together to carry out the research. Having said this, I still remain your facilitator, Obajaje Juliet Inegbedion. Here is my email if you want to reach me, and here is my phone number. At this point, it is bye-bye.